This section introduces the core concept. We're using Sklearn's ParameterSampler tool to find the best settings, hyperparameters, for a random forest classifier. Think of it like trying different recipes to bake the best cake. This is the main question. We're given a set of possible settings, a parameter grid, for a random forest classifier, and we want to figure out what's true about the way ParameterSampler will select them. It's a multiple-choice question. This defines the possible settings for our random forest classifier. We have 3 choices for the number of trees, estimators, 3 choices for the maximum depth of each tree, max_depth, and 2 choices for the minimum number of samples needed to split a node, min_samples_split. Let's break it down. There are 3 times 3 times 2 equals 18 total possible combinations. This statement is asking if the number of trees will always be one of 100, 200, or 300. Because these are the only options defined in the parameter grid, this statement is true. This checks if the maximum depth of the trees could be any of none, 5, or 10. Looking at the parameter grid, you'll see these are the only options, so this is also true. This statement is asking if ParameterSampler could pick the same setting combination more than once. Since we're only asking for 5 combinations out of 18 and it is random sampling, it is possible. So, this is true. This asks if we are guaranteed to test every possible combination of settings. Nope. ParameterSampler is a random sampler. It doesn't guarantee that. We only ask for 5 out of 18 possible combinations, so it's highly unlikely we see them all. Thus, this is false. I'm exploring how Sklearn's ParameterSampler works. I'll be looking at how it randomly selects hyperparameter combinations for a random forest classifier. This question tests my understanding of ParameterSampler. I need to determine if certain statements about the samples it produces are true or false. This defines the possible hyperparameter values. I have 3 choices for n_estimators 3 for max_depth and 2 for min_samples_split . This is the set of all possible hyperparameter combinations I can create using the values defined above. It's a set of options for the random forest classifier. I'm only taking 5 random samples from the param_grid . This is important because I might not get every possible combination. The sampling is done without replacement unless I specify otherwise. This refers to the specific sets of hyperparameters I obtain from the random sampling process. I expect some randomness in my results. It's like drawing marbles from a bag. I'm exploring how Sklearn's ParameterSampler tool works for finding the best settings, hyperparameters, for a random forest classifier. It's like randomly trying different recipe ingredients to find the best tasting cake. We're using ParameterSampler to test different settings for a random forest classifier, a type of machine learning model. Think of it as trying different combinations of oven temperature and baking time. I've defined the possible settings, hyperparameters, in a dictionary called param_grid . N_estimators represents the number of decision trees, max_depth is how deep each tree can grow, and min_samples_split defines how many samples a node needs before it splits into branches. I'm testing 3 different options for the number of trees, 100, 200, and 300, 3 for the maximum depth, none, 5, and 10, and 2 for the minimum samples to split, 2 and 5. I want to randomly pick only 5 combinations from all the possible settings in my param_grid to test. It's like randomly grabbing 5 different cake recipes. Because I'm randomly selecting only 5 combinations, there's a chance I'll pick the same one more than once. This is because there are many more possible combinations than I am sampling. I'm absolutely certain that the number of trees, n_estimators will always be one of 100, 200, or 300 because these are the only options I have set in my param_grid . Similarly, I'm sure that the maximum depth, max underscore depth of each tree will be either none 5 or 10, as defined in my param underscore grid It's impossible to test all the possible combinations. There are 18 total. 3 by 3 by 2, if I only pick 5. It's like saying I'm certain to taste every cake recipe if I only try 5 random recipes. I'm exploring how Sklearn's ParameterSampler works for finding the best settings, hyperparameters, for a random forest classifier. It's like trying different recipes to find the perfect cake. I'm testing your understanding of ParameterSampler. We'll check if you get how it randomly selects different combinations of settings from a given range. I calculated that there are a total of 18 different combinations of settings possible based on how many options we have for each setting in our recipe book. That is 3 choices for an underscore estimators multiplied by 3 choices for max underscore depth, multiplied by 2 choices for min underscore samples underscore split, giving 3 by 3 by 2 equals 18. It's like having 18 different cake recipes to try. I'm only asking you to pick 5 out of those 18 combinations. It's like picking only 5 cake recipes to test. You won't get to test them all. I'm using random sampling without replacement. This means that once a combination of settings is selected, I won't choose it again. So, it's like picking 5 cake recipes from a hat. Once you pick a recipe, you don't put it back in the hat. I'm asking you to analyze the results of using Sklearn's ParameterSampler for hyperparameter tuning of a random forest classifier. We'll examine if you understand how the function works, specifically concerning the randomness of its sampling process. This line defines the search space for hyperparameter optimization. I've set up a dictionary called PARAMETRID that contains 3 keys: NESTIMATORS, MAXDEPTH, and MINSAMPLESSPLIT. Each key has a list of possible values. For example, NESTIMATORS can be 100, 200, or 300. This sets the stage for our sampling experiment. I'm stating that the NESTIMATORS parameter will always be selected from the options provided in the PARAMETRID 100, 200, or 300. It's a simple consequence of how I've defined the parameter grid. There are no other possibilities. This statement is true because the MAXDEPTH parameters values are explicitly defined as NONE, 5, or 10 in the PARAMETRID. The PARAMETRSAMPLER will only pick from these predefined options. This statement is false. I'm saying that it's not a given that all hyperparameter combinations will be explored. This is because PARAMETRSAMPLER randomly selects combinations. With only 5 samples drawn from a total of 18 possible combinations, 3 by 3 by 2, it's highly unlikely that every combination will be sampled. Think of it like this: you're drawing 5 lottery balls from a much larger set. You're unlikely to get every ball. I define the possible values for each hyperparameter in my random forest classifier. Think of it as a menu of options. I have 3 options for the number of trees, n underscore estimators 3 options for tree depth, max underscore depth and 2 choices for the minimum samples needed to split a node, min underscore samples underscore split This specifies that I can choose between 100, 200, or 300 trees for my random forest model. Each number represents a different model complexity. Here, I set the maximum depth of each tree. None means there's no limit on depth, while 5 and 10 impose restrictions, affecting model complexity and risk of overfitting. Interesting trade-offs. This determines the minimum number of samples needed to split an internal node during tree construction. A higher number leads to simpler trees. Balancing bias and variance is key. I'll randomly pick 5 unique combinations of these hyperparameter settings. It is random sampling without replacement, meaning once a combination is selected, it is removed from the pool. These are possible statements about the results of my random sampling. I will need to evaluate each and determine if they are true or false. Because I am only taking a small sample, 5 out of 18 possible combinations, from the total number of possible combinations, it is highly improbable but possible that I might select the same combination more than once. It's like drawing marbles from a bag. You might draw the same one twice. This is guaranteed. My n_estimator's value must be one of these three options, as defined in my parameter grid. No surprises here. Again, this is guaranteed by my parameter grid definition. The max_depth value can be one of those three possibilities, as defined in the grid. This is false. Because I am only taking a small sample, 5 out of 18 possible combinations, it's highly unlikely that I will randomly select all possible combinations of my hyperparameters. It's simply not feasible with such a small sample size. I define a dictionary called _param_grid that holds different settings for a random forest classifier. It has three settings: the number of trees, n_estimators the maximum depth of each tree, max_depth and the minimum number of samples needed to split a node, min_samples_split Each setting has multiple options to explore. This shows the specific options for each setting within the param_grid For example, I can choose to have 100, 200, or 300 trees in my forest, and the maximum depth of each tree can be unlimited, none, 5, or 10. I also decide if a node should be split only if it contains at least 2 or 5 samples. This creates a large space of potential models to test. This is a function from Sklearn, a Python machine learning library, that helps me efficiently explore different settings in my param_grid It will randomly select different combinations of settings for me. I tell the ParameterSampler that I want it to only randomly sample 5 unique combinations from all the possible settings I defined. It's a small sample from a much larger set of potential model configurations. The result of using the ParameterSampler with n_samples equals 5 It gives me 5 different randomly chosen combinations of the settings that are defined in param_grid The emphasis is on the randomness. I'm not guaranteed to see all possible combinations. The ParameterSampler samples randomly from the given param_grid options. By default, it samples without replacement, meaning once a combination is selected, it cannot be selected again unless you explicitly change this default behavior. This is the core question of the problem. I need to understand if certain statements are true based on my understanding of how the ParameterSampler functions with the given configuration. Let's analyze the statements and check what we think.